strong voice with the Port Authority. Another thing that Bob was actually really involved with was the streetlights, and he helped us with, we were looking at ways to switch out streetlights to LEDs and see if that's something that's cost effective. A lot of cities across the nation are doing that because it is much less expensive now to buy LED streetlights than it is what you have currently, which is high pressure sodium. The difficulty we run into in Crafton is that your streetlights are owned by Duquesne Light. So you're kind of up to Duquesne Light to whether they want to switch them out. And there was a rate case, a recent rate case, that went up, and me and Bob actually both attended the hearing up in Green Tree, which didn't didn't tell us too much, but we ended up trying to find ways to argue with what the PUC was going to rule. And so we reached out to the Environmental Law Clinic at the University of Pittsburgh, and we reached out then to an organization called Penn Future, which is the Citizens for Pennsylvania's Future. They're a local environmental group. And by reaching out to them, they got involved in the case, and now LED streetlights are going to be $2 per month cheaper than their counterpart, high pressure sodiums, which is what you have. Unfortunately, they're only going to install 1,500 of these a year currently. But we're lobbying to get Crafton to be one of the first. Since Bob was so involved in the process, they want the champions to be, Duquesne Light has already told us that the people that were involved from the beginning are going to be most likely to be transferred over to LEDs when they become available. So that's another thing we're working on. And then one other thing I'd mentioned that I was going to tell you about the reverse energy auction. The city of Pittsburgh, Jim Sloss at the city, a few years back, I think it's been 4 years now, created what was called a reverse energy auction, where they, instead of buying energy from an energy provider, they say, hey, we have this much usage every year, you sell it to us and we'll auction it at the cheapest price. So they saved over $180,000, the city did, by doing this. And most of the municipalities that we've had sign up, we've had 12 municipalities now sign up, Green Tree signed up, Aetna signed up, and a number of others. Have saved on average about $8,000 a year by signing up for the reverse auction. So there was probably something with your bill cycle or whatnot that you guys were already, you guys can't sign up yet?
We're talking to a third party right now at a pretty good rate for
Oh.
a year and a half.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of people have contracts, so they can't sign in yet. So, but when yours comes up again and it's available, if you want to be involved in the reverse energy auction, it happens every 2 years. It's happening this summer, and then it'll happen 2 summers from now. So keep that in mind if you guys, when you re-sign up. If it's not if you guys don't have the bet as a rate as good, don't sign up for 3 years. Only sign up for a year so that you can be a part of the reverse energy auction.
When is that contract up?
Oh, I think we have another year and a half on it.
So that'd probably be pretty close to being an ideal time for the next loop. We also do work with. We're looking at economic development issues, education issues, land banking. We're monitoring what's happening with the city's land banking program and what's happening. With the TriCogs, they're also doing some land banking stuff, and we're paying attention to that to see what that can offer to, what that can offer to connect communities. But that's it. I really appreciate your time. Do you have any questions about, or any things that you want to hear?
Are you in any way connected, pun intended, to like parks, recreation, any kind of funding that way? Services?
We're not going to be connected to that, but we can always look for that. I mean,
Okay.
we have more of an. We're housed in the University of Pittsburgh, and so there's oftentimes that I can reach out to interns and get interns to do research on things. So, what specifically were you?
Well, we're just looking to redo our parks, and so
Okay.
any kind of services, grants, anything like that that's out there that is accessible.
I will take that back. I don't know of anything right off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean that we won't see something coming down the pike. Anything else?
Anyone? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
I just wanted to ask you if you could add me to your email.
Sure, absolutely. You were one of the reps, right? Right now. Yeah.
Nina, Tom, Phillips, and Tracy are the 3 Crafton reps.
Okay, great. Great. I don't have. You have their
Get on the
email.
email once I decide.
Yeah, we're
which
gonna have to
email.
get you an email, so.
Okay. As soon as you send me an email, then you'll be on the list. So I'll make sure you get everything.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we have second.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
We have a second presentation. Mark Schuster, turnkey.
Hey, Jim. I'm working on the Pittsburgh Land Bank too. like-
Oh, great. Okay, thanks. Okay, great, thank you.
All righty. My name is Mark Schuster. I'm the founder of Turnkey Taxes. I've been in here before, and for those that are new here, Turnkey Taxes is a web app that allows local governments to increase tax revenues without raising taxes. And it sounds too good to be true, and we feel that it is. It's the only one that we found nationwide where it's a single interface. Think of it like as a PNC or a dollar bank, online bank statement, where all the taxes or all the revenue streams coming into a local government can be assimilated in one easy web app, so that you can go through and just log in, everything will be there. We got signed up with Crafton a number of months ago to do a beta test for free, and we're working with Jordan. Bob and I went down there in November. We're going through all of the EIT, the Earned Income Tax information. Hope to have that cleaned up. There's a lot there. Greentree went through their records, and they had about a 25% error rate. So there's a lot of back and forth, and as I told you last time in, we don't want to load in a lot of stuff if it's incorrect. So we're going to be working with Bob and with Jordan to get the Earned Income Tax corrected. But the reason why I'm here today is that I know that you have a business privilege tax, and we just got our numbers back for the boroughs, municipalities, and cities that we've been working with across the state of Pennsylvania. We were expecting through our data mining to have an increase of somewhere between 5 and 10%. Our lowest percentage increase was 25. In the case of Aston, we returned line over line of 112%. We took that municipality from $430,000 to $900,000. So you're looking at business privilege tax, and how do you possibly increase this? Well, the first thing that I ask everybody is, how many businesses do you have in your town? And it's amazing that nobody really knows. This is something that, as a Crafton taxpayer, I mean, this is a number that we should have at the top of our head. How many properties, how many businesses, how many individuals do we have that pay taxes? So in Crafton's example, if it's 500 and then next year it's 490, what happened? Did we lose 10 businesses? Where do businesses exist? People don't realize that landlords are businesses. They need to be paying a business privilege tax. They need to be paying a license fee. Mercantile is also in effect here. So where do we find these? Some of the successes that we've had, we're finding businesses that exist that for whatever reason, they weren't on the old tax roll, they don't go to Jordan, so nobody knows that they're around. Examples, we have people that lease land that we have found, that lease land to places like Walmart, and because they were a lessee, nobody knew. Again, the landlords is, I went and met with Mary and Bob and came down, and I said, you know what, let's get at least, what's the process of getting, the landlords, or even on the EIT side. So we have all the renters that move in, 6,600 people, 2,200 properties roughly, about 46% of them are rentals. We should have a list of who the landlords are for those rentals. Unfortunately, we have those, but they're in a sealed box, and they're on index cards. And if we can, and this is my offer to you, I will work with the community, take all of the information that we have, get all that stuff electronic so that we can work with Jordan, get that on the active rolls. Then we can go through and find out just businesses, who else are we missing? Other examples that we were finding, you go into places like a Giant Eagle or a Wegman, there are operations within the operation. So our Giant Eagle here is privately owned. There's other businesses, maybe like the pharmacy, the flower shop, they're operating within the business. They're just falling through the cracks. And again, when we're finding stuff falling through the cracks, we go through and then we do the delinquent, and then we can do audits. In the case of Pittston, we did 3 audits, a little town people have never heard of. 3 audits we did, people that they were large companies that had plants in there, and the 3 audits were well over $100,000. So this is money that, we need your help here just to get this stuff electronic. So my proposition, first of all, for the folks that are new and anyone else that wants to revisit, I will certainly come in, give you a tour of Turnkey Taxes. It's easy, it's a 15-minute learning curve. The places that are using it right now, like the Aston, the city of Chester, we found $3 million for them. Jeanette just signed up. We did a couple of audits and found $35,000 of people that just, they didn't know that they existed. But I would certainly do that demonstration, but my offer would be if I worked to get all of our properties, all of our rentals, and all of our individuals loaded onto Turnkey, and I'll work with whoever, that we would do that for 15% of the money that we found. No other upfront cost. So if that's something that would be agreeable, but I mean, this is 2014, folks, and I would, I'm always here to help you folks, and you know that. But I think that we need to get that stuff off of the cards. We need to give Bob and Mary tools that they can use. In today's world, it's time we get electronic, and then you can start working with, I have a good relationship with Jordan, so as renters move in, we don't have a real good process of getting the information to Jordan when renters move in or landlords bring in new people. Mary does send all this stuff to them, but what's to say that they are actually inputting the information and then it comes back? So what Turnkey has been successful at is when the landscaping company moves into 123 Main Street, you load it into Turnkey. If the money doesn't come back in, then you can go back to Bill and say, hey, Bill, Bill Leonard, Jordan, what happened? We didn't get this money. All you do, you completely reverse the process. And I think a year from now, we would know how many businesses we have in this town, how many landlords we have in this town, both sets of address, the local address and the parent address. You can add in your own contacts. But we are at the point now, and I'm telling you that we were shocked at our results. I mean, I'm a data miner, I work with the tax collectors, but 25 to 112%. I have people calling me now from Harrisburg, Reading, Scranton, McKeesport, Duquesne. These people need help as well. So again, I'm right up the street here, folks, and I'd be glad to help whoever, but especially the folks that need it the most. So.
So Mark, can I
Yes,
ask you a
ma'am.
question? Where, I was one of the bigger proponents of this.
Yes.
Where do we stand now in terms of where you're at in Crafton Borough? I mean, I know we put the infrastructure in from an
Okay.
IT standpoint.
Mhm.
What do you need now?
Okay, actually, from you folks, nothing. Bob and I went and we met with Jordan. They sent the first iterations of information. We have to go through and clean that up, and it's lengthy. The other thing too is we want to make sure that because of the sensitivity, we would never work with Jordan, that we wouldn't want them to send out delinquent notices to people in our town that may have paid taxes, but they're showing up in Green Tree or Moon or whatever. It's not a Jordan problem, it's an EIT problem that I identified 5 years ago. So somebody goes up to Foster Plaza and the corporates in California, and they said, oh, Green Tree City versus Green Tree Borough, I'm just gonna pick one. Or they pick the zip code and say, oh, 15205, they must all be from Crafton. That's not the case. Costco is 15205. So there's a lot of cleanup and, the EIT is a lot more sensitive. We just have to be careful. But no, you folks are set up. We're gonna get the information loaded.
So in terms of our steel filing system,
The property taxes is something different. So, Mary showed me the stuff and you have all the landlords and then all the properties, but they're literally on index cards. So I don't know how, God bless them, I don't know how they do it day in and day out, but, if you had that stuff
Bring in an
electronic.
intern if you're lucky enough.
Well, we have to make it work, and again, if I can help out, if we could do something where we have a contract, I'll do it for 15%. That way,
Percent of the take.
of only what I find and
That's
only
not
what I
bad.
collect. Only what's
15%
collected.
of what we're not realizing now that we will realize, you would
Yeah,
get that.
yeah, so it's all farm money to you, and it costs you nothing. And we could work out the details. I think it would be more important for the folks that have not seen it, or they saw the version 1. The enhancements that we've tacked on in the last 4 to 5 months has been incredible, so, yes, ma'am.
Okay, one question I have is, when you're going out in these communities and you're finding businesses, like you had said, the operation inside a business, operation inside
Yeah.
operation, are you seeing a a positive effect on the side of the taxpayers? Like, is this enough that you're bringing in that actually reduces the taxpayers, or have you seen any kind of correlation effect there?
You mean, is it reduce the amount that, well, put it this way, it would prevent them from raising,
Okay.
like what happened in Carnegie, they doubled the business privilege tax on there from 300 to 600.
Okay.
And I'm saying, please don't do that. And, you know, you go into Jeanette, and we found a company, again, $30,000 audit, but here was a company that last year in revenue, they made $330 million. They felt bad that they were keeping it away from their town. They employed 1,200 people. These, you know, we thought that these were common, they're really not. Or people forget to pay and it just, they fall through, and what happens is, when you change tax collectors every 1 or 2 or 3 years, nobody ever goes backwards. So what I can do, I can load in all of the historical information. So if you know, going back to Pat Keeley, and then whoever took it from there, and whoever took it from there, but it builds the complete encyclopedia, and that's where you find it.
So is there like a limitation, like if it's, you know, 10 years out, they're no longer liable for that tax money, or, you know, have you found anything like that? I'm not sure what the tax law is,
But
so.
it really, it's specific to the municipality. I can tell you in all the communities that the tax collectors I work with, if somebody, you know, if they try to avoid paying taxes by, you know, whatever reason, there is no statute of limitations.
Oh, okay.
However, you know, you don't want to find, you know, some lady had a flower garden, was selling flowers, and it was technically a business, and she had an EIN number. She might not have known Craft and had a business privilege tax.
Right.
We find that a lot, and then it's up to you. I mean, it's your, you know, I mean, it's our community, but
And
it's
that
your
probably would be
decision.
a policy, like a
So,
letter.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you have the penalty and interest, but a lot of times they'll just cut a deal. But again, you know, I know I'm running over my time here a little bit, but I think once you get electronic, take a look at the system. For those of you who haven't seen it, it'll make sense to you, so.
What is the tax liability for renters, for landlords?
If it's business privilege, it would be under the millage, and I believe that your mill, again, I'm not the collector, but I think it's 1.5 mils. So if somebody had $1 million in rental income from, you know, they had 300 apartments, or like the red apartments on Steuben Street, if they had $1 million in income, 1.5 mils would equate to $15,000.
Income, right,
Taxes to Craft.
adjusted income from?
No, it's a gross
That's
receipt,
gross.
it's a gross receipt tax.
Money.
The business
Yeah.
privilege tax is 1% of
Yeah.
your net.
I'm working with cities where I can go in and I look at their millage, and I'll say, I know I can find you somewhere between 50 and 200% over the last couple of years. Because it's as easy as an equation as the assessments. So you look at the total assessed property in Crafton, and who should pay real estate taxes, it's an easy number to calculate.
No, one last question, I guess I asked too many questions, but, so what about properties, like we've had, you know, homes that were one and then divided, into apartments, and then some people are putting them back. Is that, like, how does that work? How do you see that?
It's not a big deal, it's
Okay.
a split. I mean, there's 3 identifiers. If it's a business, it's an EIN or something comparable,
Okay.
social security number. If it's personal, it's either a SOC or another identifying number. And
Okay,
if it's a property, it's a block and lot.
okay. And this is all secure, so it would not be able to?
It's in the Union Trust Building downtown.
Okay,
The utilities and banks use it, it's encrypted.
okay. I mean, with everything that's
The
happening.
technical part, it's SQL and ASP.
You're not creating any new laws or millage rates or anything. This is just, you're just going
This is
after
exact-
what's on the books.
This is on the books.
That's.
I mean, this is, again, this is fine money, Mayor. We're going in there, and again, I was expecting 5 to 10%. And one other thing I want to mention is the Department of Revenue, the state, has never cooperated with local government tax collectors. Why, I don't know. And I have been fighting with them for a couple of years. And I finally went out back in August, and, you know, I was able to convince them somehow. I said, look, we need to get we need the state tax license records. And they said, well, we don't do that. And I said, look, 4 in 10 Pennsylvanians live in a distressed city. That's unconscionable to me, okay? we're all Pennsylvanians. If you don't help, if you don't share the records of the people that are sending you your state corporate records, or, their individual, their business stuff, how is anybody gonna know if, somebody's working at PPG all day, and then they come home and they're doing CPA stuff on the side? Those CPAs on the side, they might not have any clue we have a business purpose tax. And then however you work it out, and even if you say, look, we're just gonna get you on the books going forward, that's where you need to work out. Should there be penalties and interest? Should there be, how far back you wanna get? It's costing money. I'm just saying that, if nothing else, if you can just get them on the books moving forward, it's still foul money. So, and it's, the time has come, and I'll do with whatever.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Once we adopt this system and we find this money, do we still use this system? Like, how does it work afterwards? Like,
Okay, great question. So, like I said, it's an online bank statement, right? As you keep loading this stuff in, you can load in real estate, you can load in all the earned income, you can load in waste, you can load in sewage. I have this built so it mirrors the DCED report. Every municipality, every PSD in
PSD, explain.
I'm sorry, every political subdivision, it's either a borough, town, city, school district, whatever, every political subdivision needs to take their records and submit it to the DCED, okay? And I'm talking to finance directors or township commissioners or whatever, it's taking these folks sometimes 4 and 5 days out of a month to take all this information. They're pulling in property tax receipts, they're pulling in franchise fees from Comcast, they're pulling in the waste, they're pulling in earned income, and they're getting all these reports so they can come in and give it to you folks in council. So now I'm working with municipal auditors and saying, if you had a system like this, and, in our case, I think they're charging about $7,000 a year, would you take those fees and cut it down to 3 or 4? That more than pays for Turnkey for a year. Turnkey is a reporting engine. And once those interfaces are built, it works on its own. The information comes from the tax collectors. I'll write the interfaces for free, the information flows up there. You never have to worry about it. All you have to do is log in. So once it's up and running, just think if you had all of your revenue streams from all of your sources, even state and federal government, in one system that you could log on from. Bob could be sitting down in Burns Flat, Oklahoma, having a beer one night and say, man, I'd like to log in and see how the finances are doing. You'd have that ability.
Certainly won't be there.
But again, it's a 24/7 system. It's tried, it's true, and it's we're kind of blown away by the returns on it. So
This, it seems like something worth exploring. We should discuss this underneath the finance committee and as an action item for 2014.
Win-win situation.
To see, to see
yeah,
where
I
we
mean
get.
it's and when it comes down to pricing after, I'm from Craft and I'm not gonna. Okay, and the other thing too is I did give you the 6 months for free, but at some point I want to start charging something only because if I make money, I can pay more taxes.
We like that.
Yeah, that was a pun I thought I'd interject there at the end before I get out of here. Folks, thank you for your time, I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. All right, good discussion there. Let's conclude the presentations we had for this meeting, so let's go into our committee discussion items. We're going to go down through each of the committees. The chairperson of the committee, address your committee, talk about what you think the goals are for your committee. I had hoped to send out the goals that I wanted for this year. I wasn't able to do that yet, so let's think about this meeting as a working meeting in the truest sense. So it can be a brainstorming meeting. Anyone that has action items or things that they feel are worthwhile exploring in that committee, please feel free to share it with the chair, but we'll give the chair an opportunity to state what they believe the goals are for the year to start. Any questions?
I have a question. So if we have something that does need action, since we are doing this in committee style, we just make a motion to have it added to the next session's
We won't
Voting
make
tonight.
motions tonight
We
about
don't.
stuff like that, no. We discuss it as a group.
Right,
We'd ask the committee chair to oversee that, communicate back to us.
okay,
Once it has reached critical mass, let's say, and critical understanding,
okay,
then it would be up to the admin, the chair of that committee, to create the motion,
okay.
and then we'll have that motion at the
At the
voting
the
meeting, which
second
would be the second meeting of the month.
Okay. I just wanna
So-
make sure we're all understanding.
But I'd like to see as much as possible have it go through the chair, which doesn't prevent any of us from making motions at that voting meeting, right? It's not precluded from making it, but in the interest of us all working together, right, let's try to funnel the action items, if you will, to the chair, and once they've reached the critical understanding, the chair then can come up with a motion, we give that motion to Bob, and we'll look to hear that motion presented at the voting meeting.
Perfect.
We'll go down to order. Again, if you haven't prepared, that's fine, we can make it a brainstorming session, but to whatever extent people have prepared, let's hear what you have to say. Nina?
So long-term goals, I have not had an opportunity to put those together, but for this discussion, we wanted to talk about a drug and alcohol policy, a possible EAP, Employee Assistance Program for our employees. We want to talk about the janitorial bids that we've received, social media and the phone proposals, and then we were going to talk about the Comcast agreement, the franchise agreement.
What do we mean by the phone? I know it's social, I know we've been talking for a couple of weeks now about the social media. What's the phone proposal? What's that mean?
It's for the updated phones in the office.
Oh, okay, I got it.
So I'm not sure if you had an opportunity, if we just start with the drug and alcohol policy. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to read it or not. You know, everyone should have a drug and alcohol policy. Anybody have any questions?
This will evolve in our employee handbook, but it's something that has been discussed off and on over the past year. And we think we should at least have a DNA policy quickly for our employees and have random testing from me on down.
Wasn't the hang up on it, the contracts with the different unions? That has to be an item included in the union negotiated contract.
It'll be the one in the Teamsters and the police, I think they do their own random right now. The other hang-up is we do not have a medical director. We need to have a doctor, a physician that represents us.
So, if I was reading correctly, and maybe there's lots of, there are 88 pages of attachments, so one of them said at the end that it's not a part of a contract, right? No?
Right,
I know.
this is just for our employees,
Okay,
not part of the, it doesn't include the folks that are under contract, correct? They have their own.
Well, they're governed by another set of
Right.
rules, right? They're governed by
Their union.
the union.
Right.
They're governed by the collective bargaining agreement, but our position is, for the next one, we shouldn't be talking about this, this will be an executive committee, but we want to include it. And if you have a CDL license, all bets are off, you're going to be driving alcohol unless you're in an accident. Regardless. I mean, that's a federal term.
Right.
But I brought this up to Nina because we need to have some discussion, not necessarily totally tonight, but this is a first draft of a DNA policy that we came up with for further review, and we're looking for Nina to give us some direction and advice, which of course she's already done together with me.
So one question I have, Nina, just as the practicality, once we collectively agree on what the policy should look like, what does it mean to roll that out to our employees now, keeping aside the police union and keeping aside the public works, because they wouldn't fall under this, but just our employees? Is it something that once we agree as a collective that it just starts immediately, or do we have to, does it change their work relationship? Do they have to agree to it, our existing employees? How does that work?
I'm gonna say that in my past, we've just rolled it out during, like annual enrollment, when you get all of your benefit information. Considering that we're just gonna do this now, it would be that you would just roll this out to your employees. They don't need to do anything. There's no, They can't say, I don't want a drug and alcohol policy. They can read it and acknowledge that they read it, or they can choose not to sign that they, that they're agreeing, but we have a drug and alcohol policy, period.
So we need to have a physician or medical representative to, like, a place where that will be the testing, is that what I understand?
If there's a positive result, take another test, but it should be under guidance of a physician.